Okay, now we share. Sorry about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so go ahead. Essentially, you're saying that you have a career track or you have a volunteer track is what you're thinking of, is the whole concept, right? And in
Well,
the
yeah, it's volunteer, it's internship and volunteer track. Those are the two tracks.
okay,
And then the programs that come into the One Planet, One People Social Responsibility Club come from Planned Acts of Kindness and also come from the career track side. Okay. So everything centers around quality of life. And on the left-hand side, you see One Planet, One People Social Responsibility Clubs, and it has a little bit of breakdown on what goes into the internship versus what goes into the volunteer program. So people get an idea of what that's involved, what the time commitment and everything is involved. Then that goes into the fields of interest. And in these different categories, which are like business and entrepreneurship, you also have marketing, you have management, you have public relations. So you have a lot of other fields that go into the main categories. In communication, you got writing, journalism, social media, computer sciences, you have programming, you've got web development, you've got app development, game development, database management, front end, back end things. In education, it's working on course development. It's working with getting people for our educational books as well. Setting up the online educational system, dealing with other organizations in this field, as is true of all the other ones. Health and wellness, that category goes into the books and the courses that we do, including the new book program, Legacy Lifelines. Public policy deals with government, and it's not only US government like what we're doing. We're reaching out and asking governors and mayors around the country to give proclamations in support of one of the new initiatives that we're doing, which is Legacy Memorial. And we're setting up a National Legacy Memorial Day for August 6th. And then we're setting up International Legacy Memorial for the people who have passed through because of COVID-19. And we're going to senators, congressmen in this country, we're going to ambassadors around the world, and we're going to governments around the world to get them to participate as well. Publishing, we have our book publishing division, which goes into everything from the creation of the books to conversion into ebooks to sales, marketing, distribution for the books, as well as research and everything else that goes into the planning and content. Visual communications can be everything from graphic design to animation to social media content, to things that are used on both the web and in apps. So people choose what areas that they're interested in, and then based upon their interests and background also, they can go into any of these 6 areas: clubs, books, courses, programs, events, and games. And they can go into more than one area as well, as there's interconnectedness. So it doesn't matter whether you're interested in IT app development. There are things that relate to all of these things in that area. If you're interested in business, if you're interested in education, that fits into all of these areas as well. So you might have a preference in terms of what you're working on. And then it goes down into the 5x5, the individuals, the groups of individuals that we work with, and the organizations and institutions that we work with that go from the top down in order to make things happen. So you might be interested in working with a certain subset of individuals. You might be interested in working with fellow students. You might be interested in working with, unemployed veterans. Okay, here, that's a big thing here in the United States. And then, where do you want to go ahead and do your outreach? And your engagement. Do you want to do that in conjunction with schools? Do you want to do it with religious organizations or nonprofits or non-governmental organizations? Do you want to go ahead and do it with governments or government agencies? So in other words, you're going to be in the One Planet Social Responsibility Club for the organization, but you can also go ahead and even start your own chapter, your own One Planet Club in your country or associated with your school or community, and then get these 5 groups of individuals, these 5 different institutions involved on the club basis. And the last one, of course, is businesses. Large businesses, medium businesses, what they call top tier, right? Tier 1, tier 2 companies, and below, whether it's a mom and pop or a Fortune 500 company. Okay? So that's how we make our connections. And what we do is we do outreach, engagement, inspiration, education, and action. Nothing happens without education and action. So we do that on a grassroots basis. We do it on a top-down basis. And when we do, we oftentimes collaborate with experts and influencers for our books, for our educational materials, for different things, for our outreach, community leaders. Okay, so if you're going to be doing something in your community, you want to start putting together a database of community leaders that you can share information on what we're doing and how we can partner with them to help them achieve their objectives through our organization. Celebrity influencers. Every country has their own set of celebrities. So you can make a list of celebrities that you want to try to enlist to the cause. C-suite, that's the executive, the highest level in companies. CEO, right? CFO, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operations Officer, Chief Marketing Officer. So there's different CEOs, and we try to enlist them as well. Media engagement, that's social media, but also it's television, magazines, radio. So you should be compiling a list of what's in your community in these areas. What are the biggest businesses, right? Top tier businesses, tier 1 and 2 in your community. Okay, because we are making this into, this is a global platform, a global initiative. So we want those companies to be involved. We want those schools to be involved, those churches and temples, right? The nonprofits. So in each of these categories, you should be doing research to find connections that we can outreach to, that we can engage, so that we can inspire them to go ahead and join the cause, even though there's lots of different programs under that, and then, right, get educated so they can push that out, and that's the action that we take. And that's to engage more people so that more people have the opportunity for quality of life. And we do that through building relationships and building stronger communities. Through the clubs, through the educational content, through the books, through different things that we put out. And campus life and Greek life, that's fraternities and sororities. Some of those are international, okay? But if you belong to clubs or organizations through your current school, through your past school, or you know of ones that might be suitable to contact. In other words, public policy, journalism, visual communications. They probably have marketing, public relations, business clubs, international student clubs. All of those things on your campus are suitable to go to say, hey, right, I joined a nonprofit, and they do tremendous things, and they have lots of programs with availability for your students to participate, where they're really going ahead and making an impact, and they're gaining valuable skills and credit for their resumes. So there's different ways to approach different organizations, but the main thing is that it doesn't take 3 weeks to learn what we're doing before you actually approach. You approach with very simple talks, very simple connections that just do the introduction. You make the connection so that we can go ahead then and share information, not based on what we're doing, but based on what their objectives are and how we can incorporate that into our programs to help them be successful. And it sounds fairly straightforward and fairly simple, but it's very difficult to have people learn how to do that. That's a skill, okay? But it's one of the most important skills that you have, and that is the skill of listening and, right, caring about helping, make other people and organizations successful, and creating a win-win-win all the way around. So that's the fundamental approach that we utilize when we reach out. Okay, so that's not the structure of the club, but that's the flow that people would go through in order to determine what departments they're going to end up with in the organization. So, Jackie, I sent you another page which has the structure of the club.
Hang on here. There we go. Wow, that's even harder to see.
Okay, so this will be in the PDF that you all will get.
Yeah, yeah.
All this information, as well as the manual that goes into the club program. So basically, what this says is that for each club, there's an executive board. Okay, so even if you're starting your own club, which is a subset of the main club, you want to go ahead. You might be the first president of that club. You want to get together a core group of people that that have those 4 qualities that we talked about in the past: desire, determination, willingness to learn, and taking action on what they learn. So you get your core group of people together, and they fill these roles. Okay? Then the thing is that you've got a whole series of programs that you can work with. And we'll get into more of that later. A lot of these are in the manual with descriptions, but of course they're on the website. And this is not the entire list, because we add new programs regularly. Okay, but then you're always looking to do outreach, engagement, and bringing people into the club so that they can go ahead and fulfill their objectives. So the thing is, people who want to volunteer, who want to give back to the community, who want to do things maybe on a larger scale, who want to practice some of their interests, whether it's graphic design, whether it's programming, whether it's business, marketing, management, whatever it is, they can come into the club. And then you have these committees, okay? So people get put into committees based upon their interests.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay.
And then for each of these departments underneath the committees, and there's a lot of them, what we want to do is we want to put the volunteers go into each of these departments. And each department wants to have, they're called crew coordinators, like Karma Crew. Okay. So the thing is that when they're in these departments, then there's going to be programs and projects that they're going to be working on. And even though you're in, let's say, one department and you're doing visual communications, well, you might also be working with communication, marketing, public relations, because they have input also in graphic design when it's used in social media. So you get to work sometimes individually, sometimes in a team, depending on what phase you're at in the development of the project that you're working on. So this is the structure of how the club is done. And then when you get into the manual, it has a complete breakdown of duties and responsibilities for the executive board, and then also for the other, different titles in the club for the volunteers. And then it also has a breakdown of a lot of the programs that are available. And I mean, the programs can go into the books and education and all of this, right? But they also get into some really crazy fun things, which is like 20 crazy ambitious things that we can do to help make 2020, right, the year of world kindness. Now, what happened with COVID-19 is, right, that whole program got delayed. So we might be doing 2021, the year of world kindness. I haven't decided yet. We might be doing 2021, the year of collaboration. I was just thinking about that the other day, and that might be where we want to go, because if anything, what we've learned from this pandemic is the premise, the importance of having one planet, one people, because the fractional approach that our government in the United States has used for its people, and that governments around the world have used to solve this issue, and has really ended up costing a lot of lives and and the health of a lot of people, not only physical health but financial health. So the thing is that if we have the Karma Club in effect, where we have literally tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people involved in that organization, we can then get information out on a regular basis and help preserve quality of life, preserve life. And that's one of the missions of the organization. But we only get there by collaboration. Mm-hmm. So you all will have a hand in making this happen.
So if we were to crystallize this so that they completely understand their role and what to do, the way I look at it is, when they join in the club, they will have the choice of volunteering or the internship. In any case, all that they are doing with either one of those is focusing on their area of interest. There, whether it's women's, like Fatima is with women's equality and women's health and all the things that are to do with women. The other two, I'm not so sure. I know that ABCOR is what Timothy's doing, AFRICOR, I'm sorry. And so whatever your discipline is, that's your start of what you want to focus on. Now, what
Yeah,
is it that you're trying to accomplish? Let me go through it first so that I get it completely. So what is it that now you've decided this is a focus area, either it's in a club perspective or a in-depth mentoring with the internship? What am I going to do with those areas? Well, your question, my thought is you're talking planned acts of kindness. So to me, that philosophy is that you will be doing things in that sphere to planned acts of kindness. Is that correct so far?
well, the thing is that Planned Acts of Kindness is a separate program through the Karma Club. Okay. And yes, One Planet, One People can go ahead and work in conjunction with the Karma Club. But One Planet, One People is set up to work on specific programs and projects. Okay. Whereas the thing is, the Planned Acts of Kindness is a set program where every day there's a new planned act of kindness and people can do that on an individual basis. It's not a team basis unless it's working on publicity or outreach for getting people to engage or on sponsorship or something like that. So that's just, you know, Planned Acts of Kindness then becomes just a program underneath One Planet, One People in that case.
Then what is their goal then, even though they have their specific area? If it's not to bring in planned acts of kindness, is their goal then one of the UN objectives, whether it might be, let's say, poverty?
Their goal is to go ahead and determine which of these programs people in the club are going to be working on. So they go ahead and select 1, 2, or 3 programs that they want to go ahead and do for the club. They want to work on books. They want to work on, events. They want to work on, the, crazy ambitious, goals. They want to work on social media. So they pick areas that they want to go ahead and do. And then they have the people who are working, volunteering in the club, whether they're interns or volunteers, work on those programs to make them happen.
So there are committed goals and objectives for each of those programs that revolve around the UN?
It doesn't, it doesn't matter whether it's UN aligned or not. It's what they choose to go ahead and do, right? If they're doing books, well, the books are normally, the subject matter of the books, right, aligns with what the UN does.
Right.
So that's the course is, if you want to say 8 foundation skills, well, that's part of the educational initiative, let's say, whether it's literacy or whether it's, extracting people from poverty. If they have the 8 foundation skills, that means that you can go ahead and have more opportunities in your life to earn more for yourself and your family. So you can say it ties into anti-poverty. Okay, so it all connects back to the UN and the SDGs, right? But it's a question of whether we're going to be actually, taking that club's work and then putting it into what the UN is doing specifically. So that would come more likely from the overall club that Planned Acts operates. In other words, the main club, the global club. On the individual club basis, right, then we work with the leaders, the executives, to set up what they're going to be doing.
So how much of this is already well developed and has a lot of people in it?
As I told you previously, Jackie, This is something that we were always instituting over the summer,
Okay.
along with the other programs that, right, have unfortunately sometimes now been delayed.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Like, right, our main internship program, which would have had 25 people in our office in New York, we
Right.
now have no people in our office in New York, because that's the reality of the world today. We're
Yeah.
still under shutdown and lockdown here in New York.
Right. So at this point, all their reality needs to be is that they want to be able to sign up, which we need to get that form download figured out. And then to decide by being in the club and then to sign up for the internship, decide what their area of expertise is. And you're not going to really start the individual customizing of um, their literal internship until what you said, the middle, some part of June.
No, like now, basically, uh, this coming week,
Okay, so
uh,
just make sure that
first,
they're signed up.
1st of June. So what you all want to do is first determine whether you're going to be doing a formal internship mentorship program or whether you're going to be volunteering. And then when you go through the form that we do, it will go ahead and be directive about that. So obviously you already know on the internship side, there's a lot of benefits for you doing the internship, in terms of the experience, the skills, the resume, the letter of recommendation, portfolio development, right? Things like that. Okay, now the next thing is determine whether you want to go ahead and be just in the main program, the main club for the organization, right? Or you also want to go ahead and start your own club in your own community. And that could be in your country, in your region, in your city, in your town, right? In your school. You decide the scope of what your community is. And then we're going to work with you to help you get that set up. Okay.
Okay.
But either way you do, you're going to go through the manual, right? Jackie, you've got a copy of the manual. You can email them all the
Okay.
materials that I sent to you,
Okay.
so you can review that. So this is an opportunity for people to really practice a lot of skills in terms of, business management, people skills, things like this. And what happens is you get to go ahead and make your activities quantifiable. In other words, you can say, I started a One Planet Social Responsibility Club for, Rwanda. And we went from having, right, no members in June to by September, we had, 12 schools involved. We had, 6 churches. We had, 15 NGOs. We had, this, and this. And we have now, 35 interns and 350 volunteers. That means a tremendous amount to prospective employers that you went ahead and put something like this together and that you managed it and that you were successful at it. That's the type of management, leadership, work initiative skills that mean something to prospective employers. Or even if you want to be a business owner later, it's a great opportunity to practice a lot of things, a lot of skills that you're going to need to own your own business and to run your own business successfully. So that's what's available. So you determine, right, which path you want to go through. This is all about what path and what journeys you're going to go through. So intern versus volunteer, main club, right, as well as, right, subset, right, community club. Okay. Then what departments or what committees do you want to come into? In other words, what's your area of interest? What's your areas of interest? Because you can be in more than one committee. Okay. And then drilling down even further with the main club, what programs do you want to be engaged with? Where do you want to go ahead and make a difference? Okay. Do you want to work on the book program, on the educational program, on the outreach and engagement program? Everybody's going to be doing some type of social media engagement. Okay. But you can do a lot more than just the regular set of what people will be doing.
So all of these different areas have step-by-step when you get there, right?
Some we develop because they're custom based upon what's
Okay.
going on at the time.
Okay. All
So,
right.
and the thing is that, no, if you're in the internship program, we're not going to go ahead and give you step-by-step because that's part of the
That's part of the education, right? Yeah,
So you've got to know, you've got to learn objectives, and then you've got to create steps in order to achieve those objectives, and then it's reviewed. Because this isn't school where you're given task to do, and then you get a little grade. This is real world where you've got to know what objectives are, and then you've got to develop pathways to get there in order to be successful. So that's the internship. That's what makes the internship challenging, but also tremendously rewarding, so that you gain the ability to go ahead and develop different ways to achieve objectives, not just one singular path. Okay. And that's a real skill, and it's a real valuable skill, and it will help you in everything that you do, not only business wise, but also personally. Okay.
Right.
Because a lot of the same things that we use in our personal life, right, we might have learned from business.
So right now, their biggest deal is to be able to get the form downloaded. What are we going to do about that? Because 2 of them have said they have not been able to do that yet.
That form, that's a different form, Jackie. That's just the internship agreement. So the thing is that I will go ahead. We haven't had a problem with other people downloading it, so I'm not sure why they're having an issue. So I will go ahead and also make all the forms available. And those are not forms. Those are called agreements. That's an internship agreement. That's a letter of agreement. So all internships here in the United States and abroad do the same thing. So I will make that entire collection of agreements available to you, and then, you know, we'll make sure that the students get them.
Okay.
That has nothing to do really with the path that they're going to take through the club or through the internship or through the volunteer. That only says what their field is going to be.
Okay.
It's not a path. That's just
it's just a commitment as to that they're going to do the work.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got that. But you know, each step. So that's your first step, is we need to get that done. Your second step is, and I think almost as important as any of that, is to start your database. Is to be able to start, and I don't know if all of you know how to use Excel, or you use some sort of a software where you can do that, whether it's with Google Sheets or whatever it happens to be, but that's really important. And I would say you'd have a tab just for maybe if you're going to college or what you're doing in the community right now, a tab for possibly government type of people, a tab for maybe celebrities or people that are an advocate of whatever it is that you appreciate and want to be part of, and maybe a tab for church or other things that are in the community. So you have them separate by each page so that you can look at them. And on each page, it would be obviously the name of the group, it would be the contact person, it would be their email and their phone. And so then at the next line would be communication or status, or what it is that you have done about them. So that list is number 1 for as many people as you can think of in your environment. Number 2 step of that will be to look to each one of them and research them a little bit on the web to see what they are working toward. Where are they going? What do they want? And they should be showing that in social media or anything else especially the people of high influence. Now, right now, you're saying, who the heck am I in the lives of those people? I'm a little tiny ant. Yes, but you are a very important ant because you're paying attention and you're looking at what they want in this world and you're understanding their path so you can craft and create influence around that path to be able to get your goals accomplished. So when you pay attention to where they're going and what they have visibly told the world is important to them, and we're praying that they really mean it, and we don't always know that, but all we can do is to start with that. So your point now is to do what research you can on those people that you put into that database, because that will be worth gold. No one else does that. You're capable of going to that degree of knowing your target audience before you approach them. And that is very, very important. You just don't go off and say, we're going to do planned acts in the world and change this world. And they're going to say, well, it's nice, but what's that got to do with me? When you know, well, you've been working X amount of time on this and that and the other, and it appeared that your goal was blah, 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 blah. You know what? We can do this together. How about, because I know these people, how about we work together as a team in collaboration? So you see, knowing all you can about those people who appear to be miles above you is a good thing. And doing that research is important because right now, and I'm going to say it as we go into the next session, right now, fear is amongst many of us. And fear is only not understanding. Fear is not understanding. When we spend the time to understand where people are going and what they're doing, the fear goes away because now we understand. So Lyle, again, we're going to get them the forms. They're going to be sure they're committed to it. They have no big responsibility except knowing where they're going as far as their focus right now, because you're going to individually work with them as we progress. It seems to be going very slow for some of you, but pay attention. There are only 4 of you that are paying attention here. So talk about slow. We've got to slow down in spades, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? So you're ahead of the whole game. You are. You're already paying attention. So those are the main things right now. Don't be confused with all of the structure of all this. That can be confusing and overpowering. Just know that it's there. As you go through the steps, you will be given choices. And you know how to do it. You've been doing it all your life, as young as you are. Any last words, Lyle?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Yes, and that's correct in terms of what initially they can do. To help you go ahead and learn how to outline materials for projects and for your things to do list, as well as how to set up spreadsheets properly, you should be going to the startup steps, which is number 3. There's some manuals in there that we developed that you should go through in terms of people of influence, what constitutes a person of influence. I believe there's some information in the manuals about that as well. So go through the materials that we provide and don't just skim them, okay? Read them, try to understand it, put it into practice, follow some of the steps that are in there so that when you're creating a spreadsheet, it's a professional spreadsheet. It's not just something that you do out of the top of your head based upon your own experience, because we have master's students, graduates, people in business who have been operating for years and years who don't know how to do this properly. The only way in this area that you know how to do it properly is actually if you're shown and trained, okay? And then it makes sense, and that will help you with everything you're going to do in terms of project management, contact management in the future. Okay?
But at least get those people into the database.
Right.
That's all
And if
that's
you
really
don't
important.
know, and if you don't know how to do something, you go back to your 8 foundation skills. Which skill can help me? When the ones that you're going to use all the time, that I use every single day, it's called research. So if you don't know how to go ahead and use sheets, right? Research it. Watch a tutorial on YouTube. If you don't know, how to go ahead, how's the best way to go ahead and get contacts in terms of your community? Let's say you're researching educational institutions because you want to do outreach to all the schools. Well, the thing is, you don't want to hunt for one school at a time. You want to use words like directory, like listing, like top. And then you want to get all the information from that's aggregated, that's in already another source. So you're going to one place so that you can get multiple sets of information. And that makes whatever you're doing speed up tremendously. Okay. So those are some of the things that you'll work on. And then we should set up now. Well, what I'll do, Jackie, is I'll let you know when the steps are available on the website for the club, as well as there will be a form on there that will be directive so that they can drill down into more of the subjects that they're interested in.
Okay.
That will most likely be available this weekend.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll have you further. So all they need right now are those things that we said.
Right.
So I think that's just about it. Did you have any questions? Timothy, do you have any questions? I think all you can do, you couldn't talk. Any of you have questions? Kwong, Keziah, Fatima?
If you can't talk, you can put it into the chat as well.
Keziah, or either one, all. Thank you so much for being committed to your future. Kuwong's doing it with a child in her hips. It's hard enough, and then put the baby on your hip. And from all over the world, I am so proud of you, because as frustrating right now as it may seem, you have the abilities, you have the strengths, you have the forward thought of how you are going to help change this world and increase love, prosperity, and peace. And I thank you for those thoughts, because when you pattern that with planned acts of kindness, there is no stopping us. We will get into the third stage of compassion together because of you. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
All right,
Lyle.
well, I hope this was instructive. I hope you're seeing your clear path now. And we'll be talking in a lot more detail in the coming weeks. And we'll be getting you started on what type of interaction, right, and growth you're going to have, as well as outreach and engagement. So looking forward to the next step.
So we're going to meet next Friday as well?
Yeah, and we might be setting up twice a week meetings, because we'll get into this. We'll start getting into the specifics of what you're going to be doing, and then we'll need to go ahead and manage those projects. So we'll need to meet more frequently in order to do that. Because once you get into projects, you don't want to wait a week between times. It's just too long a time period. So you want to have movement, right, all the time in terms of what you're doing.
But then they will individually be doing it with you as well, right?
Yes, but the thing is that I want to have 2 group meetings a week.
Well, let's consider that once we get them into it.
Right, and you don't have to be there for the first one. This is like the end of the week one. So if you don't want to be on the first one, that's not a problem, because we're going to be getting into the specifics of what they're going to be doing and I'll be addressing that and doing educational stuff, and they'll be doing, reporting on what they're working on, and they'll be presenting to the group and everything else. So
Okay.
we'll be chronicling, right, work and achievements and ideas and all this good stuff.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
great. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Have a good weekend,
And
y'all.